Okay, so here's something that might be a little bit more challenging of an example. If we're asked to solve this equation using the quadratic formula, remember we need to have everything set up in this format in order to identify the a, b, and c value that we will replace into the quadratic formula. So in order to do that, I need to set everything equal to 0, which means I basically need to collect everything onto one side of this equal symbol. So let's begin. The first thing I'd probably do is combine the x squared terms on the same side of the equation. So if I have 4x squared over here and 2x squared over here, I want to take away, usually I like to keep the x squared term positive, just makes things more simple for us in the long run. So 4 take away 2 would give us 2x squared. I'll bring everything else down. This cancels out obviously, and then we're left with equal to 4x. Again, I need to bring everything to the same side, so I'm going to move this 4x to the left side. So there is no x term already on the x or on the left side. So basically we'll just leave it and kind of keep it by itself. So I have 2x squared minus 4x minus 9 equals, now this is 0. So now we are in this format. A, B, and C are clear. I always like to go ahead and label A, B, and C just to make sure I know exactly what I'm working with. A is 2, B is a negative 4, and C is a negative 9. Remember our formula looks like this. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. It's really important that you memorize that formula. You need to have it memorized. Again, I will post a song that will help very much with that. But let's begin. So one thing to always keep in mind is that this first b is a negative b. So you always just flip the sign of what you're given. So minus 4 becomes 4 there. We have that plus or minus. Don't forget it's a plus or minus. This b squared, I always write it out, plugging everything in very clearly first. So it's a minus 4 squared. Keep in mind that minus 4 is in brackets. And then minus 4 times the value of a is 2 times the value of c, which is minus 9. All right, again, oh, sorry, I guess I'll keep going. All divided by the values of 2 times a. So 2 times the value 2. As you become more comfortable with this, you might skip some of the steps that I will show, but for now, I think it's a good idea just to be very clear with what you're doing. So we always begin with what's under the square root. So I'm going to go simplify this out to the side. So I have the square root of minus 4 squared. That's a minus 4 times minus 4. Gives us a positive 16. And then if I multiply, I always check my sign first. I have one minus here and a second minus there. A minus times a minus gives me a plus. I would be very careful about that because that sign is a big deal. Just count how many minus signs you have. Remember, if there is an odd number of minus signs, you'll have an odd answer. If there's an even number of minus signs, you'll have a positive answer. So now I have 4 times 2 times 9, so 8 times 9 is 72. Let's see, 16 plus 72 is 88. Yes, hopefully. Cool. And then let's see, that as a third. I'll go ahead and simplify. Let's see. It would be 4 times 22. Let's see, would it be 4? Is that the best we can do? I think we can do better than that. Let me see. Let me just do it the formal way. So you have 8 and 11, 4 and 2. Oops, obviously that's prime. That's prime. And then we have this. Oh, it's 2 and 2. So yeah, it would just be 4, times 22. Square root of that would be, 2 root 22. I guess that's our third. That's as simple as it gets. Okay, so this is what we will replace underneath this square root here. So I'm going to copy everything else, and then instead of writing all of this, I'll replace that with 2 root 22. So we have 4 plus or minus 2 root 22 all divided by 4. Remember, we can split this apart. So every piece on the top, these are 2 separate pieces, are both individually being divided by 4. So I have 4 divide 4 plus or minus 2 root 22 divide 4. 4 divide 4 is 1. I'll bring down the plus or minus, and then really this becomes root 22 over 2 because this is like a fraction that could simplify to 1 over 2. So you have the square root of 22 divided by 2, if that makes sense. All right, you could leave your answer this way. That would be fine. You could split it apart, 1 plus root 22 over 2 and 1 minus root 22 over 2. Or you could even type it into the calculator, but honestly, this is acceptable unless they had like 2 separate blanks for you to write your answer in. Then you would want to write 1 plus root 22 over 2 and 1 minus root 22 over 2. And that would be good. And that's all. That's your answer.